Oil markets look calm right now, and that calm is exactly what makes this moment dangerous. Historically, the most disruptive energy shocks don't begin with panic. They begin with confidence. Confidence that tensions will remain contained. Confidence that shipping routes will stay open. Confidence that diplomacy will continue to hold. The current US-Israel-Iran conflict sits at the intersection of geopolitics, energy transit, and market psychology. And right now, markets are pricing stability far more than fragility. In this video, I want to make one narrow, careful argument. Not that a specific outcome will occur, but that oil markets may be underpricing the consequences if key assumptions fail. This isn't a prediction, it's a framework for understanding risk. Let's start with the assumption being priced today. Markets are assuming that the US-Israel-Iran conflict remains contained, geographically, militarily, and economically. Containment doesn't mean the absence of conflict. It means that escalation is bounded, that transit remains uninterrupted, and that global supply flows continue largely as normal. Historically, financial markets prefer this assumption because it's usually correct until it isn't. Most geopolitical conflicts do not disrupt global energy flows. Markets learn this lesson repeatedly, and it shapes behavior. But that learning can become overconfidence. When markets price containment, they are effectively assuming that choke points remain open, shipping insurance remains manageable, and logistical friction stays low. The problem is that energy systems are not stressed by headlines. They're stressed by logistics. When people think about oil risk, they often focus on supply. How much oil is produced? How much is in reserves? How many producers could increase output? But historically, major energy shocks are rarely caused by a lack of oil in the ground. They're caused by constraints in movement. Oil is only valuable to markets if it can be transported, insured, and delivered on time. That's where choke points come into play. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most important transit corridors in the world. Not because it's the only route, but because alternatives are neither fast nor scalable in the short term. Even a temporary disruption doesn't need to halt flows completely to change risk pricing. Small increases in transit uncertainty ripple outward into insurance premiums, shipping schedules, and contract pricing. The Strait of Hormuz functions less like a valve and more like an amplifier. Its importance comes from concentration, not just volume. Roughly 1/5 of global oil consumption passes through this narrow passage. Markets don't need to see closure to reprice risk. They only need to see uncertainty. Insurance markets respond first. Shipping firms adjust routes and timelines. Refiners begin planning around delay risk rather than availability risk. This process often unfolds quietly. By the time oil prices react visibly, conditions have already shifted underneath the surface. That sequencing is critical because it explains why energy shocks feel sudden even when warning signs existed. Energy shocks don't appear all at once. They unfold in layers. First comes uncertainty, not confirmation, just doubt. Then comes friction, slower transit, higher insurance premiums, tighter scheduling. Only after those adjustments do prices respond. Market psychology plays an important role here. When pricing remains calm, participants often mistake stability for safety. But stability can simply mean delayed adjustment. Once assumptions shift, repricing tends to happen quickly and discreetly, not gradually. That is why markets are often described as being caught off guard, even though the underlying risk were visible. So, what does all of this mean in practical terms? It means that calm oil prices during geopolitical tension don't necessarily indicate low risk. They indicate that markets are comfortable with a specific set of assumptions. When those assumptions hold, pricing remains stable. When they don't, pricing changes rapidly. The goal in analyzing energy geopolitics isn't to predict conflict. It's to identify where systems depend on fragility. Right now, global energy markets remain dependent on uninterrupted transit through a handful of critical routes, especially the narrow and conflict-stricken Strait of Hormuz. When markets price confidence, they reduce their margin for surprise. And historically, energy shocks tend to emerge precisely from those moments. This channel focuses on geopolitical risks that markets are underpricing, not to predict events, but to understand how risk moves before prices do. Thanks for watching. Stay focused on risk, not noise.